I was joined a bit earlier by the Shadow Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen, and I asked him about that package that Trudy mentioned there for electric vehicles and suggested, isn't it too modest to actually affect consumer change?
Well, it certainly, I think, will be an important part of changing community behaviour, giving people the choice of electric vehicles, providing more affordable electric vehicles. At the moment, electric vehicles are expensive and there aren't many cheaper models, none under $40,000. That's not the case everywhere in the world. In other countries you can get more affordable electric vehicles because governments have acted. In Australia, the government has simply not acted, and so we are way behind the rest of the world. So a difference of around $2,000 on a $50,000 Nissan Leaf, for example, will it mean that everybody could afford one? No, of course not. But will it make a difference if you're looking at two cars and all of a sudden the electric vehicle is now $2,000 cheaper, together with the cheaper ongoing running costs? It will make a difference for some people. In addition, we've announced the fringe benefits tax cut for companies. That'll really drive behaviour. As you know, 50% of car sales in Australia are fleet sales, and a Nissan Leaf will be around $8,700 cheaper without that fringe benefits tax hit. So that's a big driver of change.
The take-up is one thing, but the other part of the puzzle, of course, is the infrastructure around charging stations and so on, and that still falls well short of where it needs to be in such a large nation as ours.
That's right, Kieran. It's a chicken and egg type situation. If we get more electric vehicles, there will be more chargers. You need more chargers to encourage more electric vehicles. Charging has improved. There are more charging stations being built around the country, and in fact, the Nissan Leaf I was talking about before, you can charge that just with a normal 3-point power point at home overnight, and you can plug it in wherever you go during the day. So it is improving. We do need to do more, and what we're announcing today is our cost package, our cost of living package. Of course, we're also committing to an electric vehicle strategy, which will include consideration of charging and what we call range anxiety, i.e. people thinking, oh, I'd love an electric vehicle, but if I drive into the country, will it get me there? Will I break down in the middle of the road without electricity? That's a legitimate concern, and as a country we do need to tackle that as well.
On this power to the people idea, community batteries, 400 community batteries, how does that work? Would a household have its own percent of that battery given how much it puts in off its solar panels, or does it become a communal supply then?
No, it becomes a community. It becomes a community project, KG. So the way it works is you have a battery that can service between 100 and 250 households. It's about the size of a four-wheel drive, might be down the local park in the corner or somewhere where there's the space. And then you'd be asked whether you want to sign on to this community battery. It costs a couple of dollars a week or a very small fee to be a part of it. You feed your solar panels in during the day when you're at work perhaps, and the solar panels are collecting energy. You feed it into the battery, and then you can draw on all the energy that's in the battery at night or when the sun's not shining. Now that will reduce power bills. It'll also provide for people to reduce emissions because instead of that power just being put into the grid during the day, it'll actually go into the battery, so your emissions will come down. So it's good for cost of living, it's good for emissions, it's good all round. And the other good thing, KG, is that you'll actually be able to participate even if you don't have solar panels. Say you're a renter and the landlord hasn't put them in, or say you live in an apartment and the strata hasn't put them in, you can still sign up while you won't feed in. Again, you could pay a modest fee and feed out in the evening, and you'll still be better off financially, and you'll still be making a contribution to reducing emissions.
As a former health spokesperson for Labor, I have to ask you about the vaccine rollout, some ongoing problems on that. Do you think that the powers that be, both federal and state, will be able to speed this up now that we have local manufacture of the AstraZeneca vaccine?
Well, what a debacle, Kieran. I mean, seriously. We were promised by the end of March that millions will have received their vaccine, and by comparison to that promise, that announcement, hardly any Australians have received the vaccine. Now, we've always been responsible in the opposition here. We've always given support to anything the government can do. But what really makes me angry, Kieran, is that Scott Morrison's always there for the shiny announcement. He's always there to claim credit. But whenever anything starts to go wrong, it's someone else's fault. And to see Cabinet Ministers today blaming the states, Labor and Liberal, I don't care. The states are doing their best. It's the federal government's responsibility. And to see them shrugging their shoulders and say, oh, it's not going well and it's down to the states. I mean, grow up, cabinet ministers. Take some responsibility. You promised you had this. When I was Shadow Health Minister, I pointed out there'd be rollout problems with the vaccine. Greg Hunt issued a press release saying I didn't know what I was talking about. Well, they should have put more effort into the rollout and the details and the implementation and less into the shiny press release, because that's all Scott Morrison ever cares about, is the shiny announcement. He's never there for the follow-up.
And we've seen this real divide, not just Queensland and the Labor government, but the coalition government in New South Wales, the Liberal Premier Gladys Berejiklian saying, quite simply, she's not getting enough notice as to how many doses and when her authorities will receive them.
Well, Gladys Berejiklian's been very clear, not just in recent days, all the way from the beginning. She said there's not enough information here. Brad Hazzard's been very clear. We can't get the information out of the Commonwealth. We're not getting enough information about when we're getting the doses. The states, as I said, this is not a partisan issue at the state level. Labor and Liberal, both, are doing their best. If Scott Morrison was fair dinkum, he would have used the National Cabinet to work with the states on the rollout. He uses the National Cabinet as a shield when anything goes wrong. He's always happy to claim credit. I bet if this rollout was going well, Kieran, he'd be out there every day, you know, associating himself with the rollout, getting the photo ops. He'd be there saying, oh, this is your Liberal government delivering. When it goes wrong, he's nowhere to be seen, and he's duck shoveling and putting it all on the premiers. And I think the Australian people have had a gutful of his serial inability to take responsibility for Commonwealth jobs.